Hello and welcome to the Luv Doc podcast with hosts Waldo Wachewski and Ophelia Bruschi.
Right now, there are millions of people out there trying to cure this intense, lingering loneliness by basically isolating themselves in a room.
Right, just staring at a screen.
Exactly. Staring at a glowing rectangle for like 3 hours a day. It is the ultimate modern paradox.
Oh, completely.
I mean, we have this biological deficit, right? We crave connection, intimacy, a shared laugh. And to fix it, we use an instrument that seems practically engineered to amplify our isolation.
Yeah, the irony is just painful.
We're swiping, we're typing, we're optimizing our profiles, but somehow we've honestly never felt more alone.
It's a really profound contradiction. And I'd actually invite you, the listener, to just pause and reflect on your own relationship with your screens for a second.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Think about that very specific exhaustion that comes from digital communication. You could be maintaining active text threads with, I don't know, a dozen different people.
Oh, totally. Just fully networked.
Right, constantly buzzing, yet feeling entirely disconnected from every single one of them. The sheer volume of communication just doesn't translate into actual connection.
It really doesn't. And that tension is the entire mission for our Luv Doc today. We're pulling apart a fascinating Luv Doc. And in this particular piece, he's responding to a letter from a profoundly frustrated dater using the handle Bumblesee.
Such a great handle, by the way.
Right. So, okay, let's unpack this, because what we are really looking at here is the deep-seated friction between our human desire for genuine, efficient connection and the very real safety mechanisms built into the modern dating landscape.
Which is a huge conflict.
It is. We're essentially relying on a machine to locate our humanity.
Which is an incredibly heavy lift for any piece of software. I mean, no matter how sophisticated the algorithm is.
Yeah, algorithms can't feel.
Exactly. And Bumblesee's letter captures this structural failure perfectly. The situation they describe is that they're actually getting matches.
Right, so the app is working.
Technically, yes. From a purely data-driven perspective, the app is functioning. But the actual conversations that follow are just excruciating.
It's brutal.
Yeah. Bumblesee is questioning the entire foundational logic of modern app dating, specifically this culturally mandated phase of texting endlessly before you are allowed to actually meet in person.
I mean, Bumblesee is looking at this system and asking, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Why do we endure this mandatory purgatory of digital small talk, pretending we're having a fluid in-person conversation?
It's exhausting just thinking about it.
The core argument they make is that it would be immensely more efficient and vastly more human to just meet up for a coffee, get a physical and emotional read on each other, and then relegate texting to what it's actually good for, which is logistics.
Right, like I'm 5 minutes late or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a compelling, highly logical stance. Bumblesee points out a pretty bitter irony in their own life, too. They're someone who actively looks for excuses to stay off their phone.
Oh, I relate to that so much.
Me too. Given the choice, they want to be out in the physical world. Yet, the price of admission to participate in their own romantic future is to chain themselves to the very device they're trying to escape.
Yeah, they're forced to live through the screen to find a life outside of it.
It really reminds me of trying to quench your thirst by drinking salt water.
Oh, that's a perfect analogy.
Right, because you're taking in liquid, sure. You feel like you're doing something to address the biological need. But the very tool you are utilizing is actively dehydrating you further.
You're just making it worse.
Bumblesee is drinking digital salt water. Every extra hour spent on the app trying to cure the loneliness just drives the isolation deeper into their psyche. And I have to say, looking at this, I find myself completely on Bumblesee's side. Yeah, I mean, doesn't forced digital small talk actively strip away every subtle nuance of human chemistry that makes dating worthwhile in the first place?
Well,
Like, we rely on eye contact, body language, vocal cadence. Are we just filtering out the high bandwidth data we actually need to make a romantic decision?
I mean, from a purely evolutionary biology standpoint, you aren't wrong. Meeting in person is unquestionably more efficient for assessing a mate.
Right, it's instant.
It really is. The human brain is a biological supercomputer. It's evolved over millions of years to process microexpressions, posture, and even, like, pheromones in fractions of a second.
Wow, yeah. We don't even think about it.
We don't. We don't need a 3-day text exchange to know if there's a spark. Our nervous system usually tells us within the first 10 seconds of occupying the same physical space as someone.
Which makes texting seem completely counterproductive.
It is an incredibly low bandwidth medium for that kind of rich data transfer. However, and this is where the Luv Doc delivers a massive, somewhat brutal reality check. Efficiency in dating is a luxury.
The luxury of efficiency.
Yes. And it's a luxury that not everyone in the dating pool can afford.
That's a fascinating way to frame it, the luxury of efficiency.
Yeah, because the Luv Doc doesn't dispute Bumblesee's premise.
Yeah.
He openly agrees that in-person chemistry is superior.
But there's a catch.
A huge one. He pivots hard to a harsh historical truth, which is that male humans have a remarkably terrible, violent track record when it comes to in-person interactions with the opposite sex.
Yeah, that is undeniable.
When you look at it through that lens, it is completely understandable why women are deeply reluctant to just abandon the digital buffer and blindly agree to physical proximity with a complete stranger they know absolutely nothing about.
And this is where the column takes a very sharp, very intense turn into the realities of physical safety.
It really does.
The Luv Doc doesn't soften the blow at all. To illustrate his point about why women are absolutely justified in this caution, he leans into some incredibly specific, highly charged political examples from the 2026 cultural landscape.
Yeah, he anchors his argument entirely in the political zeitgeist of that moment.
He does.
He's using these extreme societal examples to justify everyday interpersonal behavior.
Right. So getting back to what the Luv Doc actually wrote, he tells Bumblesee that you don't need to dig into ancient history to justify a healthy fear of strange men, because there are, in his exact words, sketchy psychopaths operating in plain sight right now.
And he points straight at the top, right?
He points straight at the Oval Office. The author notes that the current president recently tried to get the Supreme Court to overturn sexual assault charges he was convicted of in a case brought by one of his victims.
And then he highlights the Supreme Court's reaction to this attempt.
Yes, which is quite colorful.
Very. The Luv Doc explicitly calls them the worst Supreme Court in U.S. history, but he emphasizes that even this court rejected the appeal.
Right.
He summarizes the ruling with just absolute bluntness, saying the court essentially told the president, "Nah, dog, we ain't letting you off that hook. You guilty as fuck."
It is definitely a vivid, unapologetic way to summarize a complex legal ruling.
It gets the point across.
It sure does. But he doesn't just leave it at a critique of one politician. He uses this specific event to build a much broader, more damning social critique.
Which is the real issue for everyday dating.
Exactly. He argues that the truly terrifying part for women isn't just that a powerful man committed these acts. It's that a sobering percentage of the American public completely dismisses the behavior.
They just wave it away.
Yeah. The doc notes that large swaths of society write off this kind of assault as normal, locker room type, red-blooded bro behavior.
And that underlying social context is the entire crux of his advice. The Luv Doc is telling Bumblesee to look closely at the cultural environment they're trying to date in.
It's toxic.
It is. He states very clearly that he wouldn't want any women in his life to be anywhere near men who excuse or defend that kind of behavior. He says he wouldn't even want them sitting next to those guys in a church pew.
Wow. He's not messing around.
Not at all. His conclusion is absolute. Women should never be expected to throw themselves under the bus or compromise their personal safety protocols just so truly nice guys won't be mildly annoyed by the inconvenience of texting.
He is drawing a hard line.
Yeah.
He's telling Bumblesee your desire for biological efficiency does not and will never trump a woman's fundamental need for physical safety.
What's fascinating here is how the author actively reframes the entire purpose of the dating app.
Yes, I love this part.
Because Bumblesee is evaluating texting as a conversational tool, and rightfully concluding it's a tenable one.
It's the worst.
But the Luv Doc is saying, you're looking at it all wrong. It isn't a conversational tool. It is a security protocol. It is a firewall.
A firewall.
Yeah. He writes, very starkly, nobody ever got roofied, raped, or sexually assaulted in a text exchange.
So the physical distance isn't a bug in the system. It is the defining feature.
Exactly. The digital barrier provides this low-stakes environment to test for volatility without assuming any physical risk.
Let's look at the mechanics of how this works, actually.
Sure. Because texting is asynchronous and slightly detached, the social mask eventually slips.
People always reveal themselves eventually.
They do. If someone feels entitled to your time and suddenly becomes aggressive or unhinged just because you took 4 hours to reply to a message, well, the firewall just did its job perfectly.
That is such a good point.
You get to see that entitlement, that red flag from the safety of your own living room, rather than discovering it while you are boxed into a booth at some dimly lit bar.
Yeah, the absolute worst thing that can happen in a text thread is that a person reveals their true character.
Which is exactly what you want to happen before you meet them.
I hear that. I really do. But let's look at what is actually happening to the people stuck behind this firewall. Because just because a tool serves a vital protective function, it doesn't mean the Luv Doc thinks it's a psychologically healthy way to communicate.
Oh, definitely not.
And this is where the Luv Doc reveals a shared, deep-seated frustration with Bumblebee. The firewall might keep you physically safe, but it exacts a massive toll on your personality.
It really does. He completely validates Bumblebee's hatred of the medium. The doc freely admits that he personally despises texting and DMing.
Right, he's not defending texting as an art form.
No, he's defending it as a necessary evil.
Are you miffled that no one thought to buy you some flossy Luv Doc merch for your last birthday, anniversary, bat or bar mitzvah, graduation, baby or bridal shower? Your outrage is completely justified. Let it out and then get some revenge on your unthoughtful friends and loved ones by web surfing over to thepleasurecraft.com and buying all the dope merch your closets and storage spaces can hold. Remember, money is only temporary, but Luv Doc merch lasts easily a decade or so with proper care. At least that's what the merch company rep told us when he took us to that expensive strip club.
He paints this incredibly tragic yet honestly hilarious picture of his own daily texting life. He talks about putting real, genuine human effort into his digital communication.
He tries so hard.
He claims he spends time crafting these beautiful, nuanced, hilariously genius sentences. He even pauses his own column to wonder if the better phrasing is geniusly hilarious.
Which is a great little detail.
Yeah, he's really trying to inject his actual soul into the machine. And what is his reward? The app's autocorrect steps in and aggressively scrambles his intent.
Every time.
It takes his carefully crafted wood and sanitizes it into either utter gibberish or what he brilliantly calls nauseatingly bland mediocrity.
It is the ultimate tragedy of autocorrect. I mean, think about what autocorrect actually does on a mechanical level.
It just guesses right.
It analyzes your input and predicts the most statistically average next word. It takes human idiosyncrasy, the weird phrasing, the unique slang, the specific pacing that makes you you, and it forces it into a standardized algorithmic box.
That's depressing.
You are literally being averaged out by the software. This dynamic leads the doc to a rather dark observation about the future of humanity. He says it makes him realize that robots won't conquer us by wiping us out with lasers like in the sci-fi movies.
No, they will kill us with stultifying boredom.
Yeah.
That phrase is so perfectly devastating. Stultifying boredom. It captures that exact feeling of having a vibrant, complex thought in your head, and then just watching it get flattened into a gray text bubble because you used the wrong homophone, and the phone just guessed what you meant.
It's the worst feeling.
But despite knowing this, despite knowing the medium is actively erasing his personality, the doc admits he still saddles up the swayback horse of texting every single day.
Because he has to. He complies because it is the established social contract of 2026. Society has collectively agreed to filter its intimacy through this deeply flawed medium, communicating through this bizarre mixture of emojis and incorrect homophones.
Right.
He loathes the system, but as he points out, we are where we are. If you want to play the game, you have to use the board provided.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because I am not fully convinced we should just accept this dynamic. Think about it. If we know for a fact that this digital interface actively destroys the hilariously genius parts of our personality, if it replaces our unique magnetic human voice with nauseatingly bland mediocrity, aren't we actively filtering out the exact stark we are desperately trying to find in a partner?
That's a very fair question.
Right. If the firewall requires me to be mathematically average just to pass through it, how does anyone ever actually fall in love?
That question cuts right to the heart of why modern app dating feels like a second job that you absolutely hate. You are essentially asking people to perform a highly nuanced, incredibly delicate social dance while wearing a sensory deprivation suit.
That is such a vivid way to put it, a sensory deprivation suit.
It's true. Digital mediums inherently demand that we flatten our personalities to fit the constraints of the software. You lose your tone of voice, you lose your comedic timing, you lose that physical twinkle in the eye that contextualizes a sarcastic joke.
You're just text.
You are reduced to two-dimensional data points and text bubbles. And here's a psychological trap. Because you are flattened, you have to work 10 times harder to prove your authenticity.
Oh, wow.
You have to constantly perform your own personality to prove through text that you are safe, interesting, and worth risking an in-person meeting for. That constant, exhausting translation of your complex 3D self into a simplified 2D format is exactly what drives the burnout Bumblebee is feeling.
It's like you're demanding that someone paint a replica of the Mona Lisa, but you're only giving them a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet to do it.
Exactly.
It's just the completely wrong tool for the complexity of the task.
That is a perfect encapsulation of the friction here. You have two competing, equally valid realities. The safety filter is absolutely necessary because the physical world is unpredictable and historically dangerous, particularly for women.
Very true.
But the safety filter is exhausting because the digital world is reductive, stultifying, and literally strips away our humanity.
Which forces us to ask the ultimate question. If the app scene is fundamentally broken, and texting is a personality-flattening medium that we nonetheless need for safety, what is the escape hatch?
How do you get out?
Right. How does Bumblebee, or anyone listening to this right now, break out of this cycle without just surrendering and becoming a bitter cynic who hates modern romance?
Well, the Luv Doc actually provides a highly actionable and surprisingly radical solution.
I was so surprised by this part.
He tells Bumblebee that if they truly want to meet women and talk to them, quote, like a normal person, they have to completely abandon the digital meat market. They need to circumvent the app ecosystem entirely.
He's essentially advocating for a radical return to the physical world.
He really is. He advises Bumblebee to go to physical places, events, and activities where women actually congregate. But, and this is key, with a very specific mindset shift. The initial goal should simply be to make female friends.
Not to hunt for dates.
Exactly. Not a hunt, but to build community. He gives strict parameters on what to avoid, too. He says stay far away from manufactured singles events or sausage-slinging meat markets.
Yeah, you don't want to just recreate the app in real life.
Right. The goal is not to find a physical space that attempts to replicate the transactional nature of a dating app. The goal is to find a space built organically around shared human interests.
He points Bumblebee toward yoga classes, cycling clubs, sports leagues. He also specifically mentions a growing multitude of mixed-gender meetups that are rapidly popping up around Austin.
Yeah, they're everywhere now.
And what I find crucial here is his reasoning for why these meetups are surging in popularity. He says they are a direct societal response to widespread disillusionment with online dating.
He's identifying a massive macro trend there. People are rejecting the spreadsheet painting, right? They want the complex canvas back.
They want the 3D version.
Let's look at the mechanics of why a cycling club actually solves Bumblebee's problem. By participating in a shared, recurring physical activity, you completely bypass the need for the digital firewall.
Wait, how so?
Because you don't need to text for 3 weeks to see if someone is safe. The safety is naturally provided by the public setting and the shared social context of the group.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, if someone is unhinged, the group dynamics reveal it quickly and safely. You get the biological efficiency of in-person assessment, the micro-expressions, the eye contact, without the acute danger of a blind one-on-one meetup with a totally unvetted stranger.
It's a return to the village square model of human interaction.
Exactly.
And I just absolutely delight in the final piece of advice that Luv Doc gives to execute this strategy. He says, when you go to these events, leave your phone at home entirely.
Which is wild.
Don't even put it in your pocket.
That is a genuinely terrifying proposition for the modern adult. Walking out the door without a phone feels like walking out without your shoes.
It feels incredibly naked. We rely on it as this awkwardness crutch. If you're bored, you just look at your phone.
Yep.
But he argues that if you leave it behind and you happen to get lucky, make a genuine connection, and you ask for their digits. You write them on your palm with a ballpoint pen. He calls it acting like an old school baller.
I love that. There is something so incredibly visceral and evocative about that specific image of ink on skin.
It completely alters the power dynamic and the emotional weight of the interaction.
How do you mean?
Think about the mechanics of how we exchange numbers now. Getting someone to dictate their number while you tap it into a glowing glass screen is entirely sterile. It's just a data transfer between two machines.
Right, it's very transactional.
But writing a number on your palm with a pen, it immediately makes me think of the resurgence of vinyl records.
Oh, I am intrigued. Walk me through the connection there.
Think about why anyone listens to vinyl when a streaming service is infinitely more efficient, right? It holds every song ever recorded. People flock back to vinyl because it is tactile. It requires deliberate intention.
You have to actually care about the process.
Exactly. You can't just passively hit shuffle. You have to physically take the record out of the sleeve, place the needle in the groove, and commit your attention to the experience. Writing a number on your palm is the vinyl record of modern dating.
Wow. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
It's a deeply tactile experience. It carries a terrifying sense of permanence and consequence, like you can't hit backspace if your handwriting is messy, and you have to be mindful not to wash your hands too vigorously when you get home or the connection is gone forever.
It's a lot of pressure.
It is, but more than anything, it requires a level of physical proximity and vulnerability that a digital contact card simply cannot replicate. You are quite literally entrusting a stranger with a piece of your physical self, your skin, for a fleeting moment. It's uneditable. It's real.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it highlights a really profound cultural shift. We started this Luv Doc exploring a massive paradox, relying on an isolating machine to cure our deepest loneliness.
The glowing rectangle.
Right. We examined the unavoidable, incredibly messy friction between Bumblesee's valid desire for the biological efficiency of in-person chemistry and the harsh, historically proven realities of male behavior that necessitate those digital firewalls for women's safety.
The necessary soul-crushing evil of the text exchange.
Yeah, and we saw how the medium of texting itself, the autocorrect algorithms, the flattening of language into emojis strips away our hilariously genius nuances, replacing our humanity with a stultifying boredom.
Stultifying boredom.
But the real insight here is that the ultimate rebellion against this modern trap isn't holding out for a better algorithm. It isn't a new app feature. The ultimate rebellion is deliberately re-engaging with the physical world.
Leaving the phone behind.
Yes. It is replacing the artificial digital firewall with the organic historical safety of human community, the cycling club, the yoga class, the neighborhood group. It is recognizing that the most effective way to prove you aren't a threat and to showcase your true, unfiltered personality is to simply exist consistently in a shared physical space over time.
So what does this all mean for you, the person listening right now?
That's the big question.
Whether you are trying to navigate the chaotic dating scene in Austin, Texas, or you're simply trying to form genuine, lasting, platonic connections in a hyper-digital remote work reality, the underlying challenge is identical.
It's the same everywhere.
Trying to prove your authenticity, your complex nuance, and your basic humanity through a glowing piece of glass is the universal struggle of our era. We're all just trying to figure out how to bypass the autocorrect of our own lives and be normal, three-dimensional people together.
It is a fundamentally human problem that we have mistakenly disguised as a technological one.
And it leaves me with one final provocative thought that I want you to mull over.
Let's hear it.
We've just spent time analyzing how leaving your phone at home and writing a phone number in your hand and ballpoint pen is currently considered this ultimate, old-school, deeply romantic gesture. It is the pinnacle of showing physical intention. But if the cultural pendulum keeps swinging away from digital reliance, what is going to be considered romantically vulnerable 10 years from now?
Oh, that's interesting.
Will we eventually witness a complete societal rebellion against digital pre-screening altogether? Imagine a future where having absolutely zero digital footprint, no dating apps, no social media profile, no Google search results isn't viewed as a sketchy red flag, but actually becomes the ultimate dating flex. A world where the only way to know you is to meet you. Just something to think about. Until next time. Thank you for listening to the Luv Doc podcast.
To read the column that spawned this podcast, go to austinchronicle.com/columns/the Luv Doc. There are probably worse things to do with your time, right?